we said if we get any unusual bits as far as prepping a boat, we'd have a chat with you. This one's a bit of an anomaly. The boat generally is in good condition. The roof, however, for whatever reason, the paint hadn't taken very well, and there's been extensive rust right the way through, even in areas where it looked pretty good. As soon as we started actually taking the paint off, there was rust evident and quite a lot of corrosion. So what we thought we'd do is just tell you how we go about prepping one. Ideally, this boat is getting close to possibly needing a grip blasting. However, we can't all afford to do that, and if you're going to have to do it yourself and it's going to be by mechanical means, then we thought we'd go through the process with you. Our first port of call to get the paint off in the first place was to use a scabbler. Now, I've mentioned this on previous videos. It's a set of teeth which rotate. They're not powered, they just move around as the scabbler head turns, and this rips paint off very, very effectively. It also leaves a key on the steel. It's actually scratching the steel. And don't worry about that, because that's going to help to make the paint stick. That's a very abrasive surface for the paint to grab hold of. It removes a certain amount of the rust scale as well, and any bits that will go with it. So, scabbled first, having removed all the fixtures and fittings. As you can see, the mushrooms are all disappeared. Then we sand off any residue. So we get the anywhere where the paint has stuck and there's primer still present, we sand that off with an ordinary orbital sander. About a 120. If you go really, really coarse, you find it tends to skid over the top. So about a 120 just gets rid of it, so we can actually see what we're working with. And then we use a number of other bits of kit. We've got a big grinder here, and we use these large flap wheels, which will really take off that that hard scale that's left on the surface where the rusting's taking place. And you can really dig in with these. Be aware, if you do start really digging into the steel, obviously you're changing the profile and you're going to have to fill that, otherwise that's all going to be evident once you're finished. So that will knock off the heaviest scale that's sitting up on the surface. Watch it with rust, because what tends to happen is you get a scale build up which goes very hard, and it's very difficult to get rid of it. If you're worried that the scale's building up, if you've got access to a needle gun, ideal. We obviously use them. If not, chipping hammers, anything like that to actually break that off the surface. But the flat wheel's pretty good. Once you've got rid of that, you still end up with a pitted surface, and you need to get into those pits. So then we go over those with a wire brush. These zip wheels are very, very good. Get them up on their edge, they'll really dig into those pits and get all the loose rust and material out. Once we've done that, we then go over the whole surface of the boat with abrasives. Again, we're trying to clean up the rust or anything that's left there, any residues that's left there, any loose scale that's on the surface of the steel. So orbital sanders, this is coarse cut 30 grit, very, very abrasive. That's going to get not only the scale off, but that's also going to get some anchor pattern there into the steel for when you start applying your next coatings. And again, this is a particularly coarse disc which you can get on the big machine. And again, just by using the bigger disc, it means you cover a larger area, and a roof is a fairly big area. Now, our next stage, once Dave has climbed off the roof with his camera, is we're going to wash the roof. We're going to degrease it from one end to the other. It's just a proprietary degreaser that you can get from any sort of Motorfax type place, and that's going to get rid of all the dirt, footprints. As we've been kneeling up there, we're working on there, our hands are dirty. We're going to get this steel as clean as we possibly can. The usual process is to hoover first, then wash it, and then we're quite happy to move on from there. Now if your steel's in good condition, as areas are here, they're just going to be well keyed, nice tough steel to work with. When the areas look like this, more like moon surface, we won't rely totally on the fact that we've got rid of all the rust. We're going to use this product called Vactan. Vactan is a rust converter. Okay, it's good for iron and steel. It will convert the rust. It also basically primes the steel as well. So once you've applied this, you can go on then with whatever coating you're choosing. We'll go over the whole of this with the International Yacht Primer, which is an aluminium based primer, which will build up and give a really good protective, non-corrosive coating on the surface of this steel once we're finished. So Vactan, we're virtually going to do the whole of the roof because there's not very much here that isn't affected in some way by corrosion. Various means, I mean, they say on the bottle you can spray it on, you can just use a little aerosol, or sorry, a pump action, or you can brush it on. Another good method, so you don't get a heavy coating, is you can knock it on with a small sponge. So the Vactan goes on, and then we'll be going on with 4 coats of the International Yacht Primer. Bear in mind that when you do prime a surface, it's good to check the thickness when you're putting it on. So have a look at again in a wet film comb and just checking. There's no point in going to all this trouble to put 4 thin coats on which don't meet anywhere near the manufacturer's specs and are not going to offer the protection that you want for long term. The minimum coating, I was talking to somebody the other day, they're talking about 70 microns. This is going to have nearly twice that when we're finished. We'll be looking at getting somewhere between 120, 150 microns of product on this. We want to make sure that this has the biggest chance of staying in good condition for a good few years to come. We'll hopefully get back to you as we move through the process and you can see a little bit more from this. Okay, next stage then, to degrease the boat. Get plenty of degreaser on so that you work it right into the steel, and before it dries, you can see it dries pretty quick, just wipe that residue off, because as it degreases it dissolves the muck that's on the surface, but it does leave a residue and you don't want to be painting over the top of that, so use your second rag as a means of just wiping it off. Plenty on. It's not an expensive product, so get it on and it will save you a lot of hassle in the future. So on with one, off with the other. It's not exactly wax on and wax off, but if you're a film star, I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. There we go. And you can see that it is actually getting rid of quite a lot of dirt and contaminants on the surface as I work that down. Now we'll stop there and carry on, otherwise David will stand there with the camera and I'll do all the work. Okay, back again. This is totally degreased. If you're wondering, thinking the cameraman must be standing on the roof, he is, but he's standing on the cloth. We thought we'd try to be professional at least. Okay, we're going to Vactan this. Just got a nice soft brush, and what I'm going to do is apply it and actually lay it off across the surface in the same direction that we're going to paint at a later date. The idea being, if I apply it like that, then should there be any sort of build up there that shows, all the brush marks, all the brush strokes are going to be in the direction that I'm going to be painting it later. So in that way we hopefully get the best of finishes. Okay, you can see it working there. The the converter turns it, basically it's an acid, and it turns it to iron phosphate. So as we apply this, we're looking to see it turning blue, or a bluish black colour, and that showed that that's actually doing the job and covering the surface. Okay, we're going to work our way down, and that'll be the first stage of this roof prep done. Hi, welcome back. Last time you saw me, we were applying some Vactan, a rust cure treatment, onto the steel surface. We'd already abraded the surface, removed all the paint, then we've gone through the wire brushing process, the sanding process, the treatment of the steel, getting rid of as much of the loose rust and scale as possible. Then we put the Vactan on top, which will convert anything that was left. Hopefully there wasn't anything left. And then we went on with 4 coats of International Yacht Primer, which is an aluminium based product, very resilient as far as any moisture is concerned, so it holds back moisture that's trying to get in from the atmosphere, and works as a very good base to work on. On top of that, once that was abraded, once we've got 4 coats on there, then we lightly abrade the primer, and then we use a roof and deck paint on top of there. Now there's 3 coats on top of that, so that's a 7 coat system on the roof. And if you've got a roof in poor quality, I can't stress enough that you need to go through this process to make sure you hold that rust back. The last thing you want is having taken lots of time and spent quite a lot of money doing this yourself, to suddenly find that it's not working. So as we always say to you, that's the way we do it. That's our product, not our product, but our process for going through to a finished boat. So there we are. This roof and deck paint, it does exactly what it says on the tin. It's there, you can walk on it. It's for roofs and decks, originally formulated for the marine industry. So a very good product. We've not had any problems with it, very resilient. And remember, probably out of the whole of your boat, the area that takes the most weather is the roof. That's where the snow's going to sit in the winter, the leaves and stuff in the autumn, and the sun bearing down on it through the, well, I was going to say through the summer, but at intermittent points through the summer the sun will be on it. But regardless of that, it does take a lot of wear and tear. Whenever we see a boat that's in poor condition, we need to deal with it. It's always the roofs and decks that are the worst. Very rarely do you get bad cabin sides. But with a bit of time and treatment, look, that's the finished roof. The cabin sides have come up quite nice as well, so we're quite happy. The last thing now is the mushrooms to go back on. There's a Houdini hatch, and the last few fixtures, and this one's ready to go. And we'll be quite confident that the owner will be happy with that, and that roof's going to last. Okay, if we come across anything else we think you might be interested in, we'll come and do another little piece for you.